Welcome to Leaders in Light, Love, and Legacy. We are airing every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fave Unite Radio. This is the space where bold conversations ignite and focus on power. Woo, we're big on power, presence, and purpose, and the beautiful balance of the divine, masculine and feminine. We explore together how to align them fully. I am Joy Ruffen, your minister of enlightenment, awareness, and awakening, a signature style and leadership specialist. And every week, I'll be joined by a dynamic guest speaker who will bring you fresh wisdom, fierce insights, and unapologetic truth to the table. Plus, once a month, I will be your featured guest speaker, a solo bringing you insights and dialogue, all centered around signature style and our divine femininity and power of presence. So if you're craving more style, more depth, more purpose, you landed in the right place. I hear a lot of bounce back here. Visit my website at joyruffen.com and make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Joy Ruffen Fashioning Femininity, Style, and Truth, where the conversation continues and the inspiration never ends. So now, my beloved League of Eagles. You know that I've given you the name, my League of Eagles, because if you're here, you are an eagle. So buckle in, get comfortable, whatever that means to you, and get ready to soar. So let's step into today's conversation. But first, let me introduce you tell you a little bit about her. You know, all of you know by now, I have a time with pronunciations. I skipped out of that English class at AEIOU where you get pronunciations. So I'm going to ask her to pronounce her last name for you. But before I ask her to come up, her first name is Kathy. Kathy has a passion for helping others. And she have bravely marched into the financial arena. She has experienced personally financial stress, which has deepened her empathy and compassion and drive to assist those in similar situations. So through practical guidance and a simple personal financial strategy, she helps you to eliminate debt to get into smart investing. And her mission is to help women transform their financial habits and design the life they deserve. Now, doesn't that sound good? Now, Kathy, that was a brief bio. So I want you, I know your grace. Oh my God, this microphone that's there, it's crazy. I think we might have to go back to your other microphone. But anyway, pronounce your full name for us because I love your last name. I just can't pronounce it. What is it, Kathy? Hello and welcome.
Hi, Kathy Cuevas.
Cuevas. Woohoo, I almost had it. Kathy, your background is fascinating and it's thrilling because most of us women, it's never all, most of us have issues for a while with financial whatever because it's not in our wheelhouse. So tell us a little bit your background and how you came to being the woman that you are today before we get into all the things that we're going to share with this audience to help them to become financially savvy.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you for that great introduction. I appreciate that. I wasn't always a financial coach. So going back to the beginning, I wasn't always drowning in stress, debt, or had any savings habits either. But I was raised by a single mother I was the age of 5 and my sister was 4. And she was a Hispanic mother doing housework. And she was like old school. They were migrant farm workers from Arizona to here to California. Mm-hmm. They're very, I don't want to say primitive, but my grandmother made all of their clothes. So they were very poor, but happy and had everything we needed. So I was raised with my grandmother taking care of me who lived next door and my single mom going to work, and my mom never remarried. So I don't know even what it was to have a father figure in my life, growing up. So I know that's probably part of my other issues maybe, but going back to the other part, my mother obviously was not an investor, barely graduated high school, lived day to day, didn't have a bank account. I guess old school might have kept the money under the mattress. I don't know where she kept it at, but that's how we were raised. And if she didn't have the cash to pay for something, she didn't pay for it. So she was never in debt. I take that back. I remember one debt story. We got in a car accident and she didn't have insurance because we couldn't afford it. And she had to, or she just painted the car and had to fix it. No, she couldn't fix it. So she had to pay for the car, but she didn't have like $1,000, whatever it was even back then it was a lot because they like did the nip and tuck and all this other good stuff. So anyway, so I came from a very humble beginning. And because of that humble beginning, I was extremely fortunate to be able to go to college free for my first 4 years on a full scholarship because of our low income level. That was the biggest godsend I would suggest to anybody in similar circumstances that don't think college is for the rich, because we were like the lowest of low income poor. And I got to go for free on the government. So that was my saving grace. Then all the college, I had 4 more years after that, 1.5 years. I think I went for my initial teaching credential because I was a teacher for 30 years. And then after losing my first job teaching business courses, which back then was just typing on a typewriter because there weren't computers back then, I went back to another 1.5 years of school to get my special ed credential. And that's the one that got me my next job. And then after that, I got my master's degree. So all of that, I get married, have the wonderful life, have the house, have the kids, have the car, and everything was going great until my husband was told he had a brain tumor and he was going to die in 3 to 5 years. That was the beginning of my heartache and heartbreak. We were still doing fine financially, but 2 years down the road, long story short, we ended up getting divorced. And that was probably the most miserable financial mess I was ever in. We really didn't have a lot in savings because he was a vet, so we got our first home for $1 down. And I didn't know anything about money stress up until this point. And I quickly learned that I was drowning in stress. I was drowning in debt with attorney's fees, and I had no savings habits because we didn't live paycheck to paycheck, but we didn't have very much at all in the bank. So that's kind of my rough start. I guess so. I didn't have the money to start investing at all as a teacher. I know I paid in a pension fund, but I didn't see it, so I didn't really know what that was all about. But we had a 403B option available to us. I never invested in that till I was almost in my mid 40s. And at that time, I started with $10 a month. Because barely surviving, not having enough to make my house payment, trying to raise 2 girls that are like in elementary school, finances were tight. So I was basically losing my mind. Almost lost my house. Also paying half my mother's house payment. I didn't know and that's what built up to about $7,000 of debt on about a $30,000 income, which might as well just give me $100,000 debt. I didn't know how I was ever going to pay it off.
I think we spoke to it briefly before. Let me share with you what you said, and you need to hear it back because it is some story. This was a brain tumor, your first husband.
Yes.
And in your mid 40s, you're having all of these financial issues, and then you're trying to raise 2 girls. I mean, it goes on and on and on. I mean, we all have heard these, and I use this in love to you because I know you will receive it. And the audience tuning in, those listening, a sob story. But this is really, really big time, powerful. Well, what made you, or what was a pinpoint that led you to studying and being more involved with knowing and understand, obviously what you shared with us, but what was that pivotal moment that you said, I've got to get on top of my finances, I've got to master it and become savvy with my dollars? When did that hit you and how?
That probably hit me close to the time I started investing at my 403B through work with $10 a month. It was going into a regular account, not a Roth, and he explained to me because it goes in taxes first, it only cost me like maybe $1 of that 10, so it wasn't anything big out of my paycheck. Now understand, I was not even really making it paycheck to paycheck, so that dollar was the dollar I needed to pick more bottles and cans for.
What? And you said he said $10 a month investing, and how were you doing it? A Roth account?
No, that was a regular account.
A regular.
When I was a teacher at the school, in any district for that matter, They allow certain vendors that are on their approved list. They come to the school. They either set up in the teacher's lounge mail room, and as you come in to get your mail or your prep period, they're in there talking to you, and they also put things in your mailbox. Well, this gentleman put something in my mailbox. So I called him and asked about it because I knew in my mid-40s I needed to start doing something for retirement. Because again, I'm not thinking my pension. I'm thinking I don't have anything to live off of when I stop working. I went into freak out, scared mode.
I get that. You know why, Kathy? One of the similarities that we have is that my mother, as a single woman after separating from my father, she raised two girls and, your two daughters on her own. And now at this stage and age for me, and way before now, I realize the stress and the anxiety and frustration and all of that she was under, because money was always an issue. Big time. So I get it. Now, you mentioned you're kind of bouncing here, and I'm attempting to bounce with you. You were a teacher. After you got out of college, did you go into teaching? The first husband, the brain tumor. Give us a little bit more clarity there. We have time.
I didn't start teaching right away out of college. I went to work for Bank of America as a loan officer.
Oh, okay.
So but I didn't last there long because the pay back then was $13,800, and I was offered more money to go to General Telephone back then, which is now GTE, I think. Or no, it's now Verizon. I went with them, and I was management in the Santa Monica office, and I didn't fit in well. I didn't play that corporate game at 21 years old, going to break with the right people. I was very naive.
I'm laughing because you said you didn't fit in. Why didn't you fit in? You couldn't play the game. You didn't want to play the game.
I didn't, again, going back to my upbringing, single mom, and I don't want to say ignorant, but Hispanic, we didn't know how people interacted or how people talked. I mean, business talk. So I was very immature at 21 years old at the level I was at this company, making $25,000, I think, at this time. So it was a big jump in income, but I just didn't fit in, and I felt awkward. Didn't know I was supposed to go to break with the same people. Didn't know I was supposed to schmooze the boss. Didn't know any. I mean, I didn't know how to play the corporate game at 21 years old. I had nobody show me that stuff. So after that job didn't last because I didn't fit in. I ended up managing apartments. And actually, no, I went postal first. I worked for the post office, then I managed apartments. So I've had quite a few jobs in my life. And I think manage the apartments might have led to my real estate empire I have now. So everything I've done in life somehow fits with what I have now and what I do now.
You crack me up. I'm laughing away because I love your honesty. Because for you to say that you didn't fit in and to explain and qualify why you didn't fit in and the honesty of that, the business talk and so on and so forth. And also the opposite side of that, Kathy, is you're saying you wanted, and you need to be your own agent. You wanted to be your own everything. And that's why you're doing your investment and financial stuff now, which I think is great. And through the process of it, you've learned a lot of business savvy that you can share with other people, which is what you're doing. So from rock bottom to financial freedom, your story, you've shared it with us, but give us more depth and insight so that those who are tuning in, and I'm sure there are many out there, and I would include myself somewhat in that category, who need more of your financial savvy. So how did you go? You gave us an inkling when you said investing $10, I think you said a month?
Yeah.
Rock bottom to financial freedom, your story. How do you share that with us now?
Well, let's just start from that point. So The first vendor came by, I gave him $10. Fast forward a few months, another guy from another company comes in. And I think by this time it was the next school year, so I had a little bit of a raise. So I gave him $25. And I have $10 with one guy and $25 with the other guy. And this happened again 2 more times. The next guy I gave like 50 or 75 to, and the next one was about 75. But then I hit another financial pit somewhere in my life. And the first gentleman that I gave $10 to a month for his company kept in most contact with me. And he was the most caring and nurturing person, always coming to the school to visit me, making sure everything is good. What can I do? And I've told him what I've been doing with these other people as they come and go. So I eventually started teaching myself about investing by this point. So I started subscribing to Motley Fool. I subscribed to some of their pay services. I read every article that came across my email. I learned about different stocks. So everything even though I was the business major, this is not taught at school. I taught it before I retired, but it's not taught in school. And now it's mandated. It's going to be mandated in all 50 states by the year 2030, which is a miracle that the company needs. So it's been proven that states that have even one semester of financial literacy required for graduation by government and so forth, those states have the highest FICO scores and the lowest bankruptcies.
Wow.
So knowledge is wealth.
I find this fascinating because what you're saying to me, and it's so powerful, I hope everybody is receiving this. You taught yourself, self-taught. But
Yes.
because it's so powerful and so needed, they're finding, they're now going to be putting all of this that you're talking, financial literacy and all of that, in school. But you said the year 2030, we have to wait that long for that to happen?
Well, in all 50 states right now, about almost 30 states, I think, have it in their books mandating it. Here in California, where I live, it's going to be mandated starting next school year, 2026. They can't graduate without having at least one semester.
I find this fascinating because the analogy that I always make is that you're talking about financial literacy and women, especially men too, learning about finance. And I'm thinking the same about, it's not taught in school when you were there. The same with me in the fashion school and schools that I've attended. They just teach you pretty new, popular, trendy. And so they don't teach women how to really dress their vessel, their temple. So I think the analogy is akin. So who do you help now? And how do you go about it? And I already feel why you're so passionate about it, but share more with us about that. Who you help and why and how. That's what they want to know. I am part of the they.
The who is women. And since I think I picked the age of 40 because that's where my transition started, I primarily focus on women 40 and above. Although I have counseled men and so forth, that's my primary focus. The rest come, they come, but that's my focus. Because women have a different sense of instability than men do. Men, even today, still make more than women do in the same job. Dollar for dollar, women are behind men. So women have to make their money go farther than men do. They have to stretch it farther. Mm-hmm. And it's also been proven that women are better investors than men. Men are more they're more risky with their money. Women are more like the tortoise in the hare, more consistent, more even keeled, doing mutual funds, not buying and selling stocks that are women losing money all the way while they're doing it.
That is so true, Kathy. And what you just said, the difference between men and women, there's so much that we as women, and this is one of my reasons for female empowerment and leadership, owning your own power and radiance, is that we're not taught a lot of this about financial stuff. And men get it, but men get it wrong too. Remember, you and I were in this networking group where this book is Smart Women Get Rich Quick or something like that, because you're making the investment in yourself to learn. And you can the earlier you start, the better. You said you're in your mid-40s, but you want to help women overall, 40 and above, and younger, I'm sure, if they want to need the help. So
of course.
How are you helping them? Financial literacy. I think we all have heard the term and we have a layman's understanding, but give us some more ammunition on what's involved with us all being more savvy with financial literacy.
Well, literacy, just like my initial thing of literacy is English, learning how to read and write.
Yes.
So financial literacy is learning the basics of how to manage your finances, how to invest your finances, how to save for the future. It's every aspect from beginning to end of your finances. Mm-hmm. So I'd love to help women who are ready to stop surviving or living paycheck to paycheck and start thriving financially.
I love that. Stop surviving. That goes into so many different categories of our lives. And I love the word thriving, to start thriving. Have you found thus far that many of us, and I say us because I lump all women together, I don't care what strata, a level they're at, that it's harder for women to embrace this owning and knowing more about financial issues and concerns?
I think so. And I find that more with my older clients that I work with is that men die first. And when they die, women don't have a clue how their husband managed, invested, or anything their money. They're freaking clueless. And it's sad. I was clueless. I mean, okay, let's step back. I was a business major. So in my marriages, I've always managed the checkbook.
Yes.
I made sure we had even just $5 a month going into savings, but I made sure something, and we didn't have a lot, but I made sure something was going there.
Right.
So it's just the importance, financial literacy is the importance of knowing everything about finances. It's not just managing your money, it's where you're going to invest it, how you're going to spend it, or how you're going to save it. You basically have control of where your money goes, and that's where I work with my clients, is showing them how to make their dollars go so that they get more bang for their buck.
I think you narrowed in on a key here, because I think through and from the beginning of time, Kathy, that women pretty much overall, the largest percentage, have managed money, taking care of the books and all that kind of stuff. But I think what I'm hearing you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, I love to be wrong because I learn. Because I'm hearing what you're inviting women to do with this financial literacy from A to Z is learn more about investing, making money grow,
Yes.
so that when anything happens, they in turn can prosper. Does that make any sense?
Yes, it does, but not every woman is ready to start there. Some of them have to start with learning how to just have their budget and not live paycheck to paycheck or the whole continuing going in debt every month.
I think you're right. I know.
I don't know if you have time, I've got a good example of a woman's money mentoring group I volunteered for earlier this year, if you want to hear that story.
I would love to hear that story. And you gave us a key word there, Kathy. So many of us, and not only ready for this financial opening and awareness in every other, because we get complacent and competent and comfortable rather in what we're doing, which is not good. Safety is good, but not to that extent. I like that word, so many are not ready. So yes, I'd love to hear your story.
Okay, so at one of my business conferences last year, I met up with this woman. She was just the sweetest thing and helpful and so forth. She asked, hey, you're really good at financing, just from our initial conversation. How would you like to mentor a woman that's needy? And I said, sure, because I've helped people in my past through financial coaching at my churches and so forth. I love helping whoever, so sure, I'll take it on. But little did I know it was a 10-week commitment. The organization is called Women's Money Matters. And they specifically vet women who are struggling, very low income. Most of them are on some kind of assisted food stamps or income or something like that. Mm-hmm. And the mentee I was matched with was young. She was in her 20s, and she had 3 kids under 5 years old, single mom. Mm-hmm. She didn't have a car. She was struggling taking the bus or borrowing her boyfriend, fiance's car just to get to work and things like that. So she's trying to get back on her feet and so forth. And the first thing I do with any client, especially when money's involved, if they start at the budget and I'm living paycheck to paycheck, I give them a budget sheet and says, I want you to think about it. Don't just throw numbers. Think about it. Look at your checkbook. What do you really spend in all these areas? And I take the time and explain the worksheet to them, like what the categories mean. Mm-hmm. And I gave her that, and when she finished it and gave it back to me the next week, I looked at it and I was shocked. She was going in debt about $700 to $800 a month and didn't realize what was happening. So the first thing is, a lot of women that are like that paycheck to paycheck just don't realize where their money is going and how they're getting into debt. She didn't really have much of a savings account, and she wanted to buy a car and a house. I said, well, before we're done, I can help you be well on your way to buying that car, which, by the way, she bought the car 2 months ago. So I was very proud of that one.
Good news, yeah.
But I worked with her for 10 weeks. I showed her budget. I taught her how to go to thrift stores, and she didn't know them in her area. So I had her Google map them and find where they were. And she went and did that. And she found clothes with tags on it still. And I said, people donate stuff because they buy it, the kids grow out of it. She bought brand new stuff for pennies on the dollar, and her budget shrunk almost 80% in clothing for her 3 kids. So that money went towards her savings, toward the car fund. And there was a couple of other things I helped her with. I taught her how to coupon. I told her if she ever had to shop online, how to do that. She didn't have a credit card. She had a secured card. So I taught her eventually how, when her scores go up higher, how to get her first real credit card and how to use it to her advantage to raise her score up. And she's told me it's raised, I think last time I contacted her, just because I stay in touch, she's raised her score like 100 points. She's like in the 600s now. And I'm jumping for joy because she did what I told her to do, which is different than some of the clients I've had. The flip side of that is people, they come to me for help because they don't like being in debt, but they are not willing to change anything.
Ooh.
I can have a blob of clay, but if it's dried out and I can't mold it, I can't help you. You know, it's not that I tell you what to do, how to spend your money. We work together. I say, what's the 3 most important things or so, or 1 or 2 things that you really don't want to cut back on? And I look at the rest of their budget and I work with that. So it's not just me telling them, well, if they have to have cable, then have your cable. But what else can we come? Then, Starbucks lattes, what is it we can cut back on? And she was just so eager to do everything I suggested for her, other than one thing. But we found something else, and she was just a go-getter. And I'm so proud of her getting her car. And I told her she had the cash for the car, but I said to help raise her score, which is probably what gave her the big boost. I said, open up a credit union, which she did. She found one after, it took her like a month, but she found one because she was busy. I said, put all the money there for your car that when you start saving it, you're going to take a loan from that credit union because they'll give you better rates. And you're going to give them half the money down. You're going to keep the other half the money in your bank account and have them automatically make your payments. So now you're making on-time payments on a regular type loan that you didn't have in a credit closet yet. So that other wheel of the credit categories helped her to bump her score quickly because her payments were always made on time. And she's the pinnacle of people to help. Just very workable, very dire straits to get out of what she was to have that better life. So I'm sure now she's on her way to saving for her first house, which I'm sure she'll buy. I told her to look up a lot of first-time home buyer things. So there's all kinds of programs she can get in, even though she's not a vet like we did for $1 down our first house. So I gave her ideas where to go to for practice. Said my door's open, email me anytime. So that's always there, which is the same with my clients as well.
What a great story. I love that story. You know why? Because you started off by saying those who are ready, and many are not ready. They're not open and they're not hungry really to learn. And then sometimes even if they are, you mentioned another powerful word there. It's so pervasive. They're so comfortable. They want to, but they can't change. And this isn't only for the low income and the struggling, the underserved, the underrepresented, the undervalued, which is what most people think are those who really need what you're offering. But there are a lot in the middle and upper who need it too, because they either didn't take care of it, they had somebody taking care of it who didn't do it well. It's numerous reasons, basically. But this lady sounds like not only was she ready, you didn't have to twist her arm because she was open to receiving your wisdom and your knowledge. That has to be very gratifying.
Yeah. And the same thing too with an entrepreneur I worked with. He happened to be a male. He owned his own trucking business. He owned his own truck. His problem was not being authoritative in his billing. So his clients would pay them when they felt like it. And as an entrepreneur, his big money struggle was how to manage it and how to make sure the flow comes in. I said, you can't be the nice guy, but they're not doing that for the other guys that put their foot down. So I helped him in that example. Now he's buying his first house.
That's exciting.
So
that is so, you don't want to put on your tiara, but that is so heart feeling. It fills you up because you feel that you're really, truly helping someone to advance, to grow.
Yes.
But what have you found to date? It's not tricky. I don't do tricky. But I think you spoke to it, but expound a wee bit more. What do you think the top 3 reasons are that most of us are not, male or female, predominantly women? I know we both work with predominantly women, but that we are just not up to speed enough with in what we need to know about financial.
I think part of that might be fear of the unknown and the excuse of making the time to learn it. The comfort of where you're at. I'm making it, I'm paying my bills, I got a little bit in savings, I'll be okay, not thinking of the long-term future. A lot of people bank on their jobs, and we all know now, especially, and I'm glad I was teaching during COVID right before I retired,
Yes.
but these kids learn firsthand what happened in their families. and they're already living 3 to 4 families in a house. So they were already through. But now, because of my class, they taught their family how to make money on their own. Like, for example, I worked in a Hispanic area, and they would start making menudo and selling it to the neighbors. Menudo's the Mexican delicacy, I guess, sold in Sundays only in a lot of restaurants. But they started doing that, so they at least were able to make money whenever, the hotels closed down for all the maids that were house, hotel customers and things like that. Or I don't know if it affected farm workers, but pretty much restaurant waitresses, cooks, people in the back. It affected a lot of the Hispanic community. So they just have to be taught how to do something different. And I call it my safety net. What happens if you get fired? What happens if your employer goes out of business? Like we've seen so many large companies go out of business. What happens if Enron happens and everything you had in your retirement account is gone? You have to have a plan B. I would rather plan for the worst and go to the best instead of plan for the best and not have enough money when what hits the fan.
I like the way you delivered that.
So a lot of it is just forethought. People live in the present, they don't live in the future.
Kathy, you mentioned that word long term. I don't think many, especially the younger you are, and even when you hit your 40s, 50s, that you really began to seriously think about long term. But you gave me the 3 pivotal points, and I love it because for me, I take everything back down to the basics, to the beginning, out of the womb. You mentioned the 3 pivotal reasons. You mentioned fear, 1, people aren't open to learning. Making excuses, that's just rampant. And then they get too comfortable. So they don't want to make those changes. They want to, but So these, and then they don't think long term. So I think you nailed it right then and there. Now, yes, you can build wealth. So you've given us 2 great examples. What other, by the way, give us say it slowly so people, and say this a couple of times because this is radio and the poster that you'll get, but put how do people connect with you? Your website, give them your website or your email if you want to, so people can connect with you. Your website is what?
The best way is probably the website. It's financialfreedompathway.us. So spelled out, financialfreedompathway.us.
I think that's a nice, easy one, too. Sometimes they're so long and convoluted, but that's easy for people to remember. And then when you get your poster, you can put that as you promote it. But I really think the work and what you said, it stuck with me, all of it. But you mentioned long term. And now that they're teaching, Kathy, financial literacy in the schools and colleges, I think that will, let me ask you, do you feel that will gear another generation to start thinking more about long term and planning for?
Yes, I'm always reading articles. In fact, I post a lot of these articles I read all over social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, so forth. And the generations now that are having this in high school, or they even actually, some schools have it in middle school and elementary school. Just give them the little trickles of it. But high school, I gave them everything from A to Z. And these kids are now going into colleges smarter. They're not thinking of college loans. They're thinking of how I can get by, which is exactly what I did. My first 4 years were free. The next 4 years I paid as I went. I not once took out a loan. I worked during the day and I went to night school to get my teaching credential, my special ed credential, and my master's degree.
Good for you.
So it's, if there's a will, there's a way. You have to want something bad enough.
I'm only chuckling because my mother used to say that all the time. Where there's a will, there's a way. In other words, if you want to do it, you can do it. So do you really want to do it? I love that. Let's talk about, yes, you can build wealth. Give us some means and ways, simplistically, like 1 to 3 or 1 to 5, means and ways that any, every, and all can begin to build wealth. I don't care what level or strata you're at.
There is no get rich quick scheme. Usually people that go for that lose money. It's like the tortoise, slow and steady.
Yeah.
I mentioned before I started with $10, then this guy $25 and so forth. You just start slowly. As I educated myself, I'm also reading articles about real estate. And I taught my students there's 3 ways people become millionaires. Number 1, in the stock market. Number 2, in real estate. And number 3, their uncle or long lost grandfather's Warren Buffett. And they inherited millions. But they don't usually know what to do with it. It's like the people that win the lottery. They buy these mansions and so forth. They pay cash. They buy these furs, these cars. They just spend it like, oh my God, my payday finally came in. But a year or 2 down the road, when property taxes are due and they didn't save for that because they didn't think about the future, they lose everything. House, all of it goes for tax sale, unless they're smart enough to sell it. So you can't build it fast. You have to take your time and save. Saving is key. Part of what I did my budgeting tips is the 50-30-20 rule. 50% of your incomes are for needs. This is housing, grocery, and utilities. 30% is wants. You want to dine out, fund your extras, and 20% goes to savings. While I was in my struggle mode, I was probably doing 50-40-10, 50-10-40. 50% I was living off of for payments and house payments and mortgage and food for my kids and clothes and all the other good stuff we had to have. I had 10% for wants. We didn't go out very much to restaurants, so that was kind of easy for us. But I was saving 40% of my income when I was able to start doing that, maybe towards my 50s. By the time I was in my 60s, ready to retire, I was saving probably 40 to 45, maybe 50% of my income, because I had paid off my house early. I had the fear of me from almost losing my house, going through my divorce, that's the last thing I wanted to go through ever, that thing. And I think until somebody goes through something that really takes them to rock bottom, they don't have the energy or the desire or the knowledge or the fight within to want to fight out of that mess to have that better life.
Yeah.
So budgeting, and I think with some of my clients too, I'm going to go back a step. Some of their struggles they have is mindset.
Yes.
Negative. I'll never stop living paycheck to paycheck. Well, how about instead of that? How about I can go beyond my paycheck? Or I screwed up too badly. There's no way out of the mess I've got myself into. They're 40 or 50 years old. I said, I don't care if you're 60. You can get out of that mess. There's ways to do it. But I can start fresh and write a new my story. It's in your mind. So I would have them put Post-its on their mirror and look at it. And that would be their, what's that, mantra for the day or whatever they want to call it. Shift from I never have enough to I'm telling my money where to go instead of wondering where it went at the end of the month. This is just how it is. And that's what a lot of people tell. This is just how it is. I'll never be different. That's wrong. I can choose how to respond and I can choose wisely. So there's just all kinds of like that people can do. Going back to how they can build wealth, I suggested to my students and my younger peeps, and I think older too, because toward the end I switched back to Roth, invest in Roth. If you understand history, back in George Washington Day, and this is the same example I gave my students, how much do you think people paid in taxes back in George Washington's day? How much do you think people pay in taxes now with government spending? Like a good stock chart, it's gone up and up and up and up. There might be some exceptions where they do a cut back to stir up the economy, but generally it's going up, maybe flat up. So like a good stock chart, that's what a Roth IRA can do for you. If you invest in a Roth, you're paying taxes now while they're lower. And then in the meantime, if you start early enough, that money is growing and growing and growing in the Roth. And the great thing about Roth is what you put in and what it earns is tax-free, baby, when you take it out.
I just love the way what you're sharing with us and how you're sharing it. Absolutely, Kathy, because I think no matter what strata, what level, and where you're at, what generation, everybody needs this information that you're sharing. Mm-hmm. Because you gave us so many keywords here and something to marinate in the mind. And if that heart and soul isn't connected, you're going to have issues. But you said build, slow and steady. We're in the Insta society now. I think since the pandemic hit and technology is so vast that everybody wants everything yesterday, but they don't want to work towards it. And then you said the three best ways, even today to get rich: stock market, real estate, and inheritance. That makes me laugh because there's a lot of learning involved there, right? No matter where you begin. And people don't want to take the time today. And I'm not broad basing and putting everybody in this category, but far too many. So you're just on point about the ways that you can do and build this. And that's all well and good. So where do we start? I heard you say it and you end it with it, but where does one start today changing, no matter what level and what strata, what generation they're in, changing their financial life? What's the 1, 2, 3 main ways to begin now?
Well, number one, the best way to start was yesterday. The next best day is today.
I love that. I love that.
So here's some strong tips. Number one, create a budget that works for you and your income. And that has to include, I would say, 20% in savings. Whether it's 10% to your retirement account and 10% to your emergency account, then once that emergency account is full, put the rest of it in your long-term retirement account. Get honest about what your money story is. You know, you can change your story. Nothing is set in concrete. Track your spending. Be aware of it. If you don't want to carry your budget sheet with you, which most people don't, there's so many good apps that are free that when you spend, let's say, because I don't like, first of all, I don't spend cash. Everything I do goes on credit card, and I get those frequent flyer mile points to get my business plan, business tree, my business coach seat, whatever you call it. The front of the airplane.
First class.
But track your spending in the app. So especially men tend to carry more pocket money. They'll buy the $5 this or they'll tip the waitress. They don't know where that money went. They just know they had it and it's gone. So get an app. And these apps, you can say, I spent, $3 for this or $5 for that, or I bought this for 25 cents or this for $25. You just track everything. And then when you go home, you can put it in your spreadsheet. Make sure you're within that envelope system or whatever system works for you. If you're in debt, make a list. The truth is the starting line. What do I owe? Who do I owe? And I'll give them a plan. It's not always the biggest step first. It's not always the smallest step first. It depends on that person's mentality. I usually always want to start them off with a win. So I'll choose the smallest debt and pay it off. Then we'll start with the highest interest rate that's costing them the most money. And we'll plug away at it. And I actually have a spreadsheet that they can arrange it any they want. And it shows them how much they save. Depends on which version they go to. And if you're already doing okay, which is what some of my clients are already okay, it's time to start investing and leveling up. So I teach people how to invest. And I learned how to invest. I spent probably 3 weekends at an all-day conference. I'm talking like 8 a.m. to almost 9 o'clock at night with a dinner break and lunch break, learning from a gentleman that learned how to trade stocks like Warren Buffett. And I've made so much money in the stock market that it's easy if you know what you're doing. Don't follow the TikTok trends and the other junk, but it's knowledge. How do you, if you're going to buy a house, how do you know the house isn't overpriced? It's knowing what to pay for a stock in a company. So my advanced course that I wrote the curriculum for, they learn how to dissect the company's financials to know what they should pay for it when some event happens. Like, for example, the E. coli. I don't know how many of you guys remember the E. coli scare that happened at Chipotle. It happened once up north in the state of Washington. Within a month or two, it happened again in a Midwest state. And what Chipotle did is they shut down all the restaurants, lost a lot of money, but they found out what happened. They fixed it, retrained everybody, and the company came back with a vengeance. So when their stock took a plummet, let's say from 500 down to 200, that was the time to buy that company. And my students learn what that buy point is. So it's just educating yourself. And I can either start you off that and show you where to go where I learned how to do it, which is way better than I could ever do. But that's, start thinking of the future, start being smarter with your money. And like I did, start to save 50 to 60%. Just because you get a raise doesn't mean you spend it and buy a bigger house, a bigger car, a bigger boat. Put it in your retirement, and then you can retire living the dream like I am, spinning the globe and going on vacation when I want, where I want, however long I want.
Good for you. I love that 50-30-20 rule. And Kathy, you're so right about the mindset. You know, my friend said to me the other day, you know, Joy, the age of reason and common sense, it's gone. And they weren't being negative. But what you're talking about is just smart, knowledgeable knowing and thinking. And the apps, which is so popular today with technology, track everything, spreadsheets. I mean, you make it sound easy, but it's a matter of changing that mindset and being open. I love the work you're doing because I need it. And I know that I do in different ways. But let me ask you this, because, you know, for me, it's, and by the way, give us your website once again before we wrap here. But I want to ask you one question before we do wrap. My work is leadership and signature style for women. And I'm not talking about just the outside, but inside, emanating and showing up on the outside. So do your clothes match your message? And if so, how do they?
You're talking about my personal clothes?
Your personal, your style, your signature.
Well, I'm tropical and I love blues and greens. So a lot of my clothes are tropical. They have like pineapples on them or something. And I love to wear shorts in the warm weather. I'm in flip-flops 8 months out of the year. That's my style. I went to work to school teaching like this in shorts and everything because that's just what's acceptable in schools these days. When I did my student teaching, though, that was a different story. The department chair at that school made the women wear pantsuits or dress suits. That's gone. You will not see any, well, you might see one, maybe two teachers that still do that old school, mostly the men. You'll see some women maybe wear dresses, but it's pretty casual. Probably not as casual as some of the students, but it's acceptable as long as it's tasteful, I guess. You know, teachers don't wear their pants half down their bottom end like the boy students do. They would wear the purple suspenders and keep their pants up.
You're funny. You are so funny. Give us your website. By the way, you're cracking me up. I'll tell you why later, but not here. Give us your website once again, and then we're going to wrap this up, but hold tight. Give us your website where people can reach you again. Say it slowly so people can take it in and say it a couple of times so they can reach you. I love your website because it's easy to remember. Yeah,
it's actually what people want to do. They want a financial freedom pathway. Mm-hmm. And I'm their pathway to their financial freedom. So financial freedom pathway.us.
Kathy, I tell you, you must come again. And in fact, I think we're going to do this again, but it'll be live on a whole different platform, but it'll be good. And we're going to make sure your mic and everything is up to speed. Thank you. You've given us so much knowledge, wisdom, and along with that, you've added in a lot of life experiences with it, which is what people trust more than sometimes the knowledge. So thank you for that. Hold tight while I wrap up. And let me just say to all of you out there, my League of Eagles, because that's who and what you are. I am Joy Ruffen, and it's always an honor to be your guide and your companion on this journey. Because as your minister of enlightenment, awareness, and awakenings, if today's conversation stirred something deep within you, I don't see how it could not. Don't let it stop here. Your assignment, you know we love homework here, is to meet and greet with Kathy. There's so much more waiting. Visit with me on YouTube, my channel, Joy Ruffen, Fashioning, Femininity, Style, and Truth, for more conversations, insights, and style with substance and presence. Whether you're drawn to leadership, style, divine femininity, truth, or simply the power of living boldly and financially free, there's always something fresh, fiery, and soul-stirring waiting right here for you. We gather every Tuesday at 6 p.m. on Fave Unite Radio, and we can't wait to welcome you back. So until next time, my League of Eagles, stay rooted in grace, rise in power, and never stop soaring. And you know that soaring means flying, spreading your wings. Together, from my heart to yours, always much, much love. Be and stay well, and take care until we meet the next time. From my heart to yours, always love. All the best. Cheers.